It is Saturday, March 28th, and I am heading to the San Diego Festival of Writers, or the San Diego Writers Festival, which happens in Coronado every year, specifically at the Coronado High School as well as the Coronado Library. This is my fourth time heading to the Writers Festival. I go just about every year, and I think it was last year, maybe it was the year before, that I was actually on a panel at the Writers Festival. I was on a panel with one of my colleagues, Dr. Lohagan, and we were talking about diversity in children's literature. But since I'm not on a panel this year, I'm looking forward to going to all of the panels and just enjoying the fullness of the festival. So this year, I want to tell you about the panels that I plan on going to. The festival starts at 9:30, and so I want to get there early enough to get parking. And the first panel that I plan on going to is from 9:30 to 10:30. It is called Pitch Perfect, Everything You Need to Know About the Querying Process, with Lynn Butler, who is the author of The Fourth Daughter. I have queried before. As you know, I do have a children's, or as you may know or may not know, I do have a children's book out. It was published 10 years ago, so I have gone through the querying process. But since I am planning on querying my young adult novel this summer, I want to just go and see any other information that I can be prepared for going back into the querying trenches this year. I'm not familiar with Lynn Butler's work, but I will definitely become more familiar with who she is at the festival. The second panel that I plan on going to is called Writer Identity, looking at the ways that underrepresented writers sort of kind of move through the industry. And so I'm looking forward to hearing some of the work of the authors who are on that panel. And then at noon, we break for lunch. And then after lunch, I'm going to another panel called Understanding Publishing Options. And this panel seems to be diving into the different paths towards publishing. I imagine that they'll be talking about self-publishing as well as traditional publishing and probably hybrid publishing, which we have generally come to understand are those authors who have a mix of self-publishing as well as who also go through traditional publishing paths. And then the pièce de résistance that I'm really looking forward to is seeing Jodi Picoult, and her keynote is after lunch. I have not read any of Jodi's work in a very long time. Actually, the first and I guess last book that I read of hers was My Sister's Keeper. I absolutely loved it, cried my eyes out. And unfortunately, I have that book packed away in one of my many boxes of books. So I don't have it for her to sign, and I'm not entirely sure she's doing a signing, but I am just looking forward to her talking about her path as a writer, as well as just being able to hear her speak and or maybe read from her work for the first time. And then after her panel, I am going to a workshop called the 1 Minute Workshop. And it seems like it is a workshop to learn how to write your book's elevator pitch. And then the last panel that I will be going to is called Set Yourself Up to Make Your Publishing Dream Come True. And this is with Laura Cathcart-Robbins. And so I'm looking to hearing about her experience. I'm not familiar with her work, but I think she just released a book. And I think she's also an editor in publishing, or was an editor in publishing for a really long time. So it'll be interesting to hear from her experience as an editor in the industry, as well as then someone who is also an author in the industry. And then that is all I have for the schedule. And I think that takes us to about 5 o'clock when the festival is over. So with that, let's go learn how to be a writer at the San Diego Writers Festival. It was such a beautiful spring day, so not only was I happy to be outside soaking up the sun and enjoying good conversation and music, I was also very happy being around so many people who love writing just as much as I do. Although there weren't that many children's book authors at the festival this year, it was good for me to hear about the experiences and tips from a wide range of authors.
Source documents that I use, the same ones that are used by any Shakespearean scholar, anyone who follows this, right? So we're all using the same rough.
It is Tuesday. It has been a couple of days since the San Diego Festival of Writers, which was a lot of fun. I enjoyed going to all of the panels, and I also got the opportunity to see some of my writer friends. And then I also talked to a lot of new writers, and it was really inspiring to hear their stories and why they wanted to be writers and what they were writing. So I always like to go to the festival, even when I'm not on a panel, or even if I feel like I understand how this business works. It's just really great to go there and to be inspired, and of course to support other writers as well. I would say that the panels there are more panels that are helpful to beginner writers, but of course there were also panels that were for seasoned writers, and especially the panels where the writers were talking about their long-term writing careers, and they were also able to discuss their book. So in that sense, the Writers Festival also felt like a miniature book festival. And then certainly one of the highlights for me was meeting Jodi Picoult. I think I said this before heading inside to the festival, but that my first book and sort of kind of the last book that I had ever read of hers was My Sister's Keeper. She did talk about that very briefly, but for the most part, what she spoke about was her most recent book, which of course I need to, give me a second, quickly look up the title. It's a book called By Any Other Name. It's historical fiction. It is about a woman named Amelia Bassano, who Jodi believes is the writer behind all of Shakespeare's plays. And she brought all of the research and all of the receipts. And so I'm really excited to be reading the book, because not only what did I learn about the book at the festival, I also was one of the 100 winners of a free paperback signed copy. So it just felt like a really lovely time to be there, and affirmed that that was my day, because I ended up winning a copy of the book. I don't have the time this spring to add it to my TBR, although I guess technically it is on my TBR. However, my plan is to read it sometime this summer or sometime this fall, as I tick through what is currently on my TBR list. The festival, I would say, was a really nice entrance into spring break. I'm currently on spring break, which is why I am sitting here on a Tuesday morning. Actually, it's 10:19. Technically, I would be on my way to campus getting ready for class, but we are officially on spring break, and I have so much writing to do and so much reading to do. So even though we are on break, technically my break is being used to get ahead and or get on time with my research, as well as get on time with some reading. I have quite a few deadlines that are coming up. I have revisions that are due on Friday that I need to work on for one article. And then I have another set of revisions that are due at the end of May. But because I've had so many other deadlines, I haven't had as much time to spend on that article. So my hope during spring break is to get those two articles out. Although the second one that's due in May, I won't be able to get out just yet, but I'll definitely want to be working on that. And then of course, I also need to finish some of the reading that I'm doing. I am not in my apartment. I am actually dog sitting for one of my really good friends. So I am here at her house with her dog, Parker. I will show you some footage of Parker later on. He's actually right there next to me, sleeping on the floor. We went for a walk this morning. I've already had breakfast. And so now I am sitting down to get some work done. Again, it's about 10:20. So let's see what is on my schedule for today. Okay, so I need to also work on my novel, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what's happening with my novel. So I need to work on my novel. I need to work on those article revisions. I also need to do some grading. I'm so behind on grading. I am going to hopefully use this week to catch up. I don't think I'll be able to finalize all of my grading, but my hope is to get a little bit more grading done. And then I also, of course, need to study Korean, and then I need to do some reading. So this week, I am reading Song of the Land. It is an anthology by quite a few scholars that I am familiar with in the field. Some of them I do know. So I'm currently working on an article on Rolex Under Hear My Cry. And so this anthology is perfect because it looks at sort of kind of the overall work of Mildred D. Taylor. And then for funsies, because we got to have a book that we're reading for fun, I actually just started Reggie and Delilah's Year of Falling. So I read the first book in the series. So technically, they're sort of kind of same universe. They are standalones. I read the first book in the series in 2024, Happily Ever Afters. That was actually my book of the year in 2024. And then at the beginning of this year, I read, oh my goodness, what is the title? I just finished it yesterday, which is so crazy. Give me a second. It is One True Loves, which is crazy. And so I finished that. Maybe it wasn't yesterday. I finished it maybe on Friday. And then so I started this yesterday. So that is sort of kind of the last book of the series. I'm only a couple of pages in, page 9. And so I'm hoping, I don't know if I'll be able to finish this week, but I'm definitely going to just allow myself, when I'm tired, to crawl on to the couch and get some reading done. So on my calendar for today, and I don't know if this is really going to happen, but I just wrote down and I'm hoping for the best. Uh-oh, there's no one here, Parker. He sees birds out in the backyard. Or maybe he's telling me not to do any work. Okay, so I have 2 hours to work on my novel. I gave myself 2 60-minute sprints, and then I gave myself 2 16-minute sprints, so another 2 hours to work on that article that is due in May. And then I gave myself an hour to work on revisions for the sort of kind of article / interview that is due on Friday. Then I gave myself 30 minutes to read the novel. I gave myself 30 minutes to read from this book, but I also need to read another article. So I probably need to read for 60 minutes from sort of kind of academic work. I do need to do some things for YouTube / Instagram. So I gave myself 30 minutes. Oh, I know why, because I'm trying to do quarter recaps instead of 6-month recaps, and those recaps of when I put all of my hours into spreadsheets, and then I sort of kind of share out how much work I've done. I'll put some in, or I'll put a few links to my last 2 in the description box below if you are interested in how many hours I'm writing, how many hours I'm reading, how many hours I'm doing research. And so that's how I put all of that in those videos. So I do need to do a little bit of scripting because my hope is to record that video in the next, maybe not this weekend, but the following weekend. And then that will be for the first quarter, since the first quarter ends today, which is absolutely bananas. Happy end of the first quarter. I am recording this, I don't know if I said earlier, but on March 31st. Then I gave myself 30 minutes to study Korean. Parker and I need to go on 2 more walks. We have an afternoon walk and then we have an evening walk. I think our afternoon walk will probably be around 12:30 or 1 o'clock, which means that I have about 2 hours to get some work done. Let's say we'll do 1 o'clock. That way I have 2 hours to get some writing done, and then we can go on a walk. And then I gave myself 60 minutes to grade. And then I gave myself about 15 minutes of admin. Again, I don't imagine that many emails will be coming in during spring break, but just in case if there are a few, I will have time allocated to do some email replies. And so I think that is it for my schedule for today. Let's get started with writing. So I have completed my 60-minute sprint. I was able to get rid of 364 words, which is really lovely. So I worked on chapter 32 and chapter 33. I have less than 10 more chapters to go, and I do need to get rid of perhaps another 10,000 words. Actually, let me back up for those who may not know what I am talking about. I am currently working on a YA contemporary with a very strong subplot of romance. I have been calling this project Project Seoul because it takes place in Seoul, South Korea. I started this project in 2023, completed the first draft in 2024, completed the 5th draft in 2025, and now I am on the 6th draft. My total word count is atrocious. When I finished that 6th draft, I was at 120,000 words, and as of today, I am currently at 112,669 words. So let's see how many words I have deleted since I started editing in early March. So when I ended the draft 6, or when I started draft 6, I was at 120,685 words. Again, I am currently at 112,669 words. And so when I do the math, I have edited out 8,016 words. So again, I have about, not even 10,000. I probably have about 13,000 words to edit out because I am trying to get this last draft under 100,000, but hopefully close to about 90,000. So I am going to end working on the novel here, even though I do have 2 hours to work on it in my calendar for today, or at least in my agenda for today. I probably will come back to it later on today, but I do feel very motivated to get some reading done. Often when I have a really great editing session, I don't want to keep editing because I want to end on the high and not feel as if I am getting bogged down. So I think a good transition for me is to be reading someone else's romance novel or someone else's YA contemporary. And so I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes reading about Reggie and Delilah, and then I will see what will come next. I mean, it'll be pretty close to lunch. Parker and I still need to go on our WALK, and then I will come back, probably eat lunch, and then do some more tasks afterwards. So we'll see how we're feeling in the afternoon. For now, I'm feeling quite motivated to get some reading done. So let's start with that and then see where that takes us today, or takes us forward. Let's see how that takes us forward. Good morning. It is the next day. It is currently 11 o'clock on Wednesday, April 1st. I did not record very much of anything yesterday except for my walk with Parker because I had to just lock in. Actually, Parker is currently sitting on my lap. He is very much a lap dog, and I absolutely love it, but it is not very conducive to getting any work done. So yesterday, let me just recap what I ended up doing that I did not film for you all. I ended up working another hour on my novel, and then I spent an hour working on the article that is due in May. I also studied Korean for 30 minutes, and then I graded for 45 minutes, which was so necessary. I, of course, need to do some more grading today. And then I also edited this vlog for 30 minutes while I started uploading footage and sorting and categorizing so that I would not have a headache figuring out when all of these clips were taken. And then I spent another 15 minutes scripting next month's video, which I believe I said yesterday was about my Q1 results. I went to bed sort of kind of late, a little past 11:30, maybe close to midnight, trying to get all of this done, and then just doing a wind down routine. And as of this morning, I did some life admin, and now I am getting ready to jump back into my schedule. So on the docket I have today, because I did not spend any time working on the revisions for this Friday, I actually redid my schedule so that today and tomorrow, and then of course Friday, I will only be working on those revisions. I will be taking sort of kind of mini breaks to do a few other things, but for the most part, all of my writing time is going to be spent working on those revisions. Let's see what else I have for myself. Oh, I do need to post to Instagram this morning because April, I don't know if you know, is the beginning of National Poetry Month. And so I have put together a kind of recommendation list for novels in verse from middle grade and young adult authors that I think you all might be interested in reading. So I have already created that on Canvas, and I just need to download the images and then plop them up onto Instagram. I will also put them on LinkedIn. Generally, everything that I put on Instagram, I also put on LinkedIn, especially when it comes to things like book recommendations and then also what I am reading. I also did not do any academic reading yesterday, and I do need to read the introduction to a book that I read many, many years ago. It's actually Black Girlhood in the 19th Century by Nazira Sadiq Wright. It was published in 2016, and I remember reading it as soon as it came out. I actually have a hard copy at my apartment, but since I am here house sitting, I do have access to an electronic copy via my university's library. And so I do need to read at least a part of the introductory, or if I'm going to read for 30 minutes, as far as I can get. The introduction is 22 pages, so it is possible that I could read all of it in the 30 minutes. So since Parker is on my lap and I don't want to disturb him, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the Instagram post, which will probably take me about 15 minutes. At least I have here that I've allocated 15 minutes for it. Then I will do the 30 minutes of reading of the introductory, and then I'm going to have to move him so that I can actually get some writing done. Are you excited, Parker? Let me show you Parker again. Parker. He keeps trying to get comfortable, but my lap, unfortunately, right? My lap is not big enough for the both of us. Are you gonna head out? He's gonna head out. So I will see you guys in a little bit. You gonna stop barking? Oh. You want to say hi to the vlog? Do you want to say hi to the vlog? Say hi to the vlog. Are you going to stay on my lap? Okay, he's going to stay on my lap. As you can see, it is many, many hours later, so much so that the sun is sunning, although I have not been sitting here the whole time because it was getting very, very warm. So let me catch you up on what I have accomplished in these past, I don't know, 4 hours? Four-ish hours. Let's see, so I did read for 30 minutes. I also did some editing on this vlog, moving photos and video clips over so that the storage doesn't get too full, and then essentially spent the rest of the afternoon working on revisions for Friday. I'm feeling very, very confident that I will actually have it done tomorrow, although what will happen is I will want to finish reading it again, or maybe read it one more time on Friday, but I'm feeling really, really good about the revisions. Grateful that I have a transcript of the conversation, which is actually making the revisions so much easier because I can plug and pull from the document simply by searching the terms. For some reason, I thought it was going to take me much longer because of how long the video recording is, but completely forgetting that I am working more with the transcript rather than the actual recorded footage. So with that, we did go on our afternoon walk, Parker and I. He just ate dinner. So in about 15 to 30 minutes, we're going to go on our evening walk. And then I am going to, I think, get more reading done. I do want to read at least a little bit from Reggie and Delilah. And then if I have more time, I will do my 30 minutes of studying Korean. And then if I have extra time, then I will work on my novel for an hour. Especially now, since I recognize that I have all of tomorrow to work on these revisions, and I think spending a good majority of tomorrow, just like how I did today on revisions, will be easier than I had originally thought. So with that, I think I'm going to close out for today, and I will see you tomorrow. The sun is making me look like we are glowing. Yes, we're living in San Diego and it being 70 degrees outside. It is the following Saturday, which means that spring break is almost over. I didn't do a lot of recording on Thursday and Friday. I basically finished writing and did a lot of reading. But the best thing, of course, is that I finished my revisions yesterday morning and submitted them to the journal editors, which I am very, very, very excited about. So today I wanted to celebrate and give myself a treat for finishing my revisions and turning them in. So I did want to head to La Jolla for this final Saturday in spring break and treat myself to not only a book, but perhaps if there is parking, that I will be able to treat myself to a really delicious meal at a vegan restaurant that I have not been to in a very long time. The book that I want to get for myself as a treat is called The Free Verse Society. It is by a dear Instagram friend of mine, and I'm really wanting to support her. The book came out, I think, a little bit over a week ago, or just about a week ago. Maybe it was the last Tuesday or the previous Tuesday. And so I saw that it was at my local Warwick's, and so I'm going to head down to Warwick's in La Jolla. So let's go to La Jolla and pray that there is parking. hope that you've enjoyed watching my spring break vlog. It was definitely a productive but fun week. And if you enjoyed watching, feel free to leave a comment below. But as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.